Hey, this is Todd. Welcome to the monthly update on what's going on in the real estate market in the Denver metro area. So a couple of things, we're going to talk bullet points first. So bullet points looking at average sales price. Now here I've got median, but I'm also talking average, right? So the average sales price in March for detached single family homes actually increased about 2% month over month. And it's also up about, for just the attached single families, up about 1.5, right? The days in the MLS, we have a real big inventory problem. So when we're looking at this, what we're faced with here is just the amount of time that houses are staying on the market. And the average days for both detached and attached in March in the metro area decreased about 22% when compared with the prior month to 35 and a half days. Last year we saw these at about 12. So there's a little bit more time on market, but still this is going really fast. Active listings is our biggest problem. We're up almost 4% compared to last month with about 3,000 homes, but it's still pretty low. When we look at pending, here pending listings for all properties, we're up about 20%, but down about 12-13% year over year. And same thing with closed. We're looking at, we've got some increases here over last month, but we're still down about 14% when we're comparing things to a year ago. So when we look at this, this is kind of interesting. Let me pull this down a little bit. All right, so Denver housing. Now, I like to look at this 5 years out, and I'm going to do this every single time. So, and this is still based on where we were for February, where things were basically the same from 22 to 23. But something to note here when we look at the median sales price on all houses is essentially when we get into Q2, we start to see an increase. So if we go out here, here's January, then things start to pick up when it gets into Q2, right? Here's January, and things are picking up when we get into March. That is the essential trend year over year, pandemic or not, right? So we see a little lull here as we always do, and then we start to see things go up. Now the number of homes sold is pretty interesting as well. When you think about when you're buying or selling, there are more homes for sale in the summertime, which means there's greater selection. If you can't find the house you're looking for right now, just wait a little bit and it'll be on the market. It is going to cost a little more because there's going to be more demand. But when you look at the same thing, January versus May, and we've got January here, saw a big blip, but 2020 was a weird year when COVID came out, and then it just recovered, right? Then we look to January and then into Q2, January, Q2, and here we're already starting the upward trend. Same thing. Days on the market, most in January, no surprise, and then things kind of taper off as we're starting to see here as well. So that's kind of where we're looking at it across the board on all of this as far as trends and what's taking place. How hot is the Denver market? Market is pretty competitive. I go out 5 years again. When we look at what they ask for at a price and what it sells for, it stays pretty stable. But you can see here when we get into Q2, even here it looks pretty mild, but we always see a little bit of an increase in the sale to list price when we get into Q2, right? It's going to be a little bit more expensive. Homes that sold above list price, you can see it here, and how many there are, and when we get into this Q2 across the board, and then homes with price drops. Now, you see that increasing a little bit as well, which is interesting across the board, but you see less of them just because when we get into this Q2 as well. So they're getting more here, get a little bit better deal when you get into the fall. All right, so the migration numbers are, I don't know what this actually means and how valuable it has, but when you look at people moving to Denver, well, people are coming to Denver from San Francisco area, right here. They're coming from the Boston area, and they're coming from New York and Washington, right? If they're leaving here, it's pretty interesting. They are going to Chicago, they're going to Phoenix, and then they're hitting the Florida area, and so forth. So that's kind of what's going on in the marketplace. Just wanted to give you a little bit of an update. Where things go is we just need more homes. I know, and I can talk more about this later, you can give me a call, that there is a new bill being brought to try and eliminate zoning for residential real estate. So what this means is somebody can buy the house next door to you, scrape it, and build a sixplex. And they're thinking that's going to help our inventory problem. So a little bit of a concern. I don't know if that's the right tactic on this, and we can talk more about this later. But the biggest problem that we have right now is if there's nothing to sell, then there's nothing to buy, and that's kind of where we're seeing these numbers. But it is propping those home prices up. So regardless of interest rate, regardless of what's going on, think back to supply and demand. If there isn't any supply and demand is still high, we're going to see higher prices, and that's kind of what we're seeing. So any additional information that you have questions on, feel free to reach out to me. Once again, this is Todd, and here is your monthly market update. Thanks so much.